I seriously cannot believe it's been almost 3 years since the release of Halo Infinite. 3 years ago, we were all waiting with cautious optimism, waiting in anticipation on a hopeful comeback from the less than stellar track record from 343 Industries. And well, who would have guessed? 343 kinda shit the bed. Now, when it comes to sequels to beloved game franchises, I'll be the first to say Halo Infinite isn't the worst. Frankly, it's not even the worst Halo sequel. However, I will say that the launch of Halo Infinite, in particular the multiplayer, was definitely less than stellar. Since its release almost 3 years ago, there's been a steady stream of content given out post-launch, so I wanted to take a look and see what improved, what got worse, and kinda at least try to answer the question, is Halo Infinite any good now? So to really get down to whether or not the game has truly gotten any better, I'm going to have to paint a picture of the launch of this game. In the spirit of being more positive, and by recommendation from my court-appointed therapist, I'll start with the good. I think the bare bones of Halo Infinite, the art style, the base gameplay, are inherently good. The gameplay itself from day one is enjoyable, and a definite return to form after the red-headed stepchild that was Halo 5. The armors and overall art style felt close to the original Bungie games as you could get, and the introduction of the banished weapons and enemies was a breath of fresh air compared to the bullshit Forerunner enemies we had in the previous two entries. Now, while the art style was pretty and the game was fun to play, there was absolutely jack shit to do on the game day one. There was like 3 separate matchmaking options, no Forge day one, no co-op for campaign, no form of firefight, no custom games, and the theater mode was broken on arrival. There's absolutely no excuse for how this game launched. It was 6 years after the launch of Halo 5 and felt like a slap in the face. I would say the worst fucking part of it all was the fact that the game was fun, but there was just nothing to do after you beat the campaign and got tired of multiplayer. But it's okay, all that shit's in the past. It's 2024, we've had almost 3 years of updates and new content, so what the hell is actually new and changed? I wanted to start by taking a look at the progression system. On day one, there was nothing in regards to a player level or a career rank. Absolutely fucking nothing. But hey, at least we could rank up the battle pass, am I right guys? The only progression day one was the weekly challenges that would give you XP towards your battle pass, and nothing else. And unlike most battle passes in other games, the first two that Halo Infinite were like 6 months long each. Like, you've been meaning to tell me for the first 12 months of this live service game's lifespan, I'm gonna get only 2 battle passes to complete? That's utter bullshit. And what made this progression worse was the fact that the only way to get XP was from these bullshit challenges that would cause you to care more about completing the challenges as opposed to winning or doing anything else in the games that you play. Now, I will give them credit. They've made some pretty big changes over the last couple of years. First off, by giving us a career rank. Why in God's name it took so fucking long is truly beyond me, but fuck it, at least it's here. Having a career rank and being able to level up with how well you do in games just gives you a little something extra to work towards, compared to hoping you're able to get a certain amount of kills with a specific gun or whatever so you can get enough XP and unlock an emblem in the battle pass that you're never going to use. The challenges are still in the game, and yes, they are still the way you progress through the battle passes, however they are nowhere near as shitty to complete compared to the day one version of the game. Most of the challenges now are just play or win X number of games, get multi-kill medals, get a killing spree, whatever. Shit that you don't really have to go too far out of your way to achieve while normally playing the game. And frankly, if you play Firefight, which I will touch on in a little bit, you can knock out most weekly challenges pretty quickly. So they definitely made some improvements in my opinion so far. Between career rank and the challenge system, where my personal issues come into play is how they've handled the battle pass situation. Now this is a bit of a newer development, but they've switched away from the 3 to 6 month 100 tier battle pass system to that of a 20 tier smaller monthly battle pass operation. Now this wouldn't be nearly too bad if the battle passes actually had shit that people would want to unlock inside of them. However, most of these newer monthly operations are filled with maybe a cosmetic item or two, and the rest of it's just filled up with bullshit Spartan points, or whatever the hell it's called. Boy, I sure do love spending hours grinding away multiple levels of a battle pass just to be awarded with differing amounts of in-game currency. Thanks 343, very cool. And you want to know the best part about this new system? Is that you can use these new Spartan points in the section of the shop titled The Exchange, which is just filled with loads of useless and boring bullshit that barely anyone will ever use. So, in terms of the current state of unlocks, I personally feel no real drive to complete and get everything just due to the lack of anything cool to unlock. The coolest sets of armor are locked behind horrendously overpriced bundles in the shop, and I, for one, refuse to spend 20 real-life dollary dues for a single fucking skin. Alright, enough bitching about progression and battle passes. Let's talk a bit about what you're going to be spending most of your time doing, actually playing the game. Now, like I said before, at launch the gameplay was pretty good, but there was basically jack shit to do, and luckily they've definitely added more stuff and they haven't really changed the gameplay all that much. Since launch, they have added a single new weapon to the sandbox and a couple of new pieces of equipment. I'll be the first to say only one weapon in 3 years is a bit lame. However, they have made minor tweaks to the already existing weapons available in the game, but still, pretty lackluster if you ask me. And when it comes to the equipment, I'll be honest with y'all, I barely even use the ones that they've just recently added. The grappling hook is way too good, and you just can't beat it. Now, the bulk of the effort and post-launch content will be in the new maps, game modes, etc. And credit where credit is due. At least they have been actually adding stuff in. Granted, anything looks better when you launch the game with 3 fucking multiplayer playlists, but hey, I guess progress, not perfection, am I right? I mean, it still boggles my mind how you launch the game without a dedicated Team Slayer playlist. That's the biggest short bus moment I think they've had so far. Now, they've added a fair amount of different playlists and new modes since launch. Classics like SWAT and Infection are welcome additions back into the game, but the 2 modes I wanted to cover most that I think I've had the most fun with are Husky Raid and King of the Hill Firefight. Husky Raid is a 4v4 capture the flag based mode on small, narrow maps with random weapon and equipment spawns. This game mode is probably my favorite Halo PvP mode in years, just because of how chaotic the gameplay is. And it's even better when you get into a Super Husky Raid match, which replaces all the weapons with the upgraded versions from the campaign, making it way more fun. Now, this mode can get a little frustrating sometimes when someone on the enemy team gets a gravity hammer and is able to just come and spawn camp you near your flag, but let's be honest, while it is frustrating when it happens to us, it's pretty damn satisfying if you're the one with the hammer. Sorry, not sorry. And that leads me into the next game mode, King of the Hill Firefight. Firefight and other round-based PvE survival horde modes will always be some of my favorites across all of gaming, and while I would have preferred a traditional firefight mode akin to Halo Reach and ODST, I'm glad we at least have this in the meantime. I mean, it's not too difficult to describe. Basically just firefight with the addition of fighting over the hill. If you've played Halo before, I'm sure that'll make sense to you and you can understand. Frankly, in getting older and not having hours of my life every day to dedicate to playing video games, I'm glad there are alternative PvE modes that are a much more chill way to unwind after work. Compared to the sweats playing in every other game mode, it just is a nice change of pace. They have added a number of additional maps to the game, and if I'm being completely honest, none of them really stuck out too much for them to be memorable. They have some cool limited time maps, like all the Halo 3 maps they remade for a limited time during a Mountain Dew promotion they had last year. Those weren't new, they were just the classics remade. But you really won't hear me complaining because you can't really get much better than the Halo 3 maps. Now for the last few things. They canceled split-screen co-op for the single-player campaign, which they said they weren't going to do even before the game came out, so that's more than just a little frustrating. They added the online co-op, and someone even modded the local split-screen to work pretty easily, so I'm not sure what the fuck 343 were doing. They also added Forge finally, but they added it as a beta a year after the game came out. Imagine waiting a full year since the game's released for a Forge beta to drop. Jesus Christ. Now I can't personally speak for the quality of the Forge mode since I haven't really used it since Halo 3 and Reach. I think I've killed too many brain cells in the 4th grade with my crippling alcohol addiction, so I can't quite figure out how to make anything in Forge, but if you've used the mode, drop a comment and let me know if it's actually any good. Also, the fucking theater mode barely works from my understanding. Like, I think they just kinda gave up, or it's just not in the game's code to even try to get it to working anymore. RIP to anyone trying to make Halo Infinite machinimas in 2024. They also added custom games browser into the game. It's alright. Personally, I think it's a little bit too late. Like, compared to previous custom game browsers and previous entries, I just don't think you have nearly as many people making modes for it. I have seen a few really cool modes, and right now they actually are running one of the community-made modes in the matchmaking rotation. It's like a Call of Duty Zombies ripoff, which is cool, and I definitely had fun playing it. But all of this begs the question, is Halo Infinite any good now? Well, in my opinion, I would say yes and no. I think that the game is definitely in a better spot now, but it shouldn't have taken us almost 3 fucking years to get here. If this was supposed to kick off the next 10 years of the Halo franchise, they definitely dropped the ball. The base gameplay is still as fun as ever, and the maps are okay, and there's finally an adequate amount of content to do in the game, but this is where we should have been at least a year from the game's launch, not 3 years in. Now, with that being said, the multiplayer is free, so if you haven't tried it, I would give it a shot. It's not going to cost your wallet anything, just some of your precious time. But what do you guys think? Are you happy about the game now? Is Halo dead? Am I just clinging onto a fleeting hope that one of my favorite childhood franchises will be brought back from the dead? Let me know in the comments below. Drop a like, subscribe if you wanna. That'll be it for me today. I'll see y'all later.